Today's date is February the 22nd, 1994. I'm Blake Hailey, and we're pleased to have with us Dr. Michael Clearfield, the chairman of the Department of Medicine, here at the University of North Texas Health Science Center at Fort Worth. And we're doing this video in the Biomed Communications Center, which is located in the Gibson D. Lewis Library. Sorry about the job title. I didn't mean to make that mistake. After going through the rest of that spiel, though, I'm surprised I only made one this time.
A lot of words.
Thanks for being with us today, Dr. Clearfield. If you could, I'd like to go back into your prior background, a little bit of your history, long before you thought about coming to TCOM.
Well, my history prior to this is not very exciting, I don't think. I went to college, in a small college in Reading, Pennsylvania, called Albright College. And after I graduated from there, I went to medical school at the Chicago College of Osteopathic Medicine. I did my internship and started my residency there, and then finished my residency at Metropolitan Hospital in Philadelphia in internal medicine. And at that point, I was looking for an academic position, and I heard about this school through some friends, and I had a brother-in-law who was living in Dallas at the time, so I figured I could kill two birds with one stone. I could at least visit the school and visit him at the same time. Liked what I saw, so I came here right out of my residency.
And what year was that?
79.
79, and you've been here for a long career.
I've been here for a long time, yeah.
What are some of the positions that you've held here at TCOM?
Formal or informal? No. I became vice chairman of the department, I guess it was around 81, and then in 83 I became acting chairman, and then after that I became temporary or full-time chairman, I guess it was 85, something like that. Other positions that I've held, I've been in numerous search committees. I've been chairman of the MSRDP, which is the practice plan. I've held offices in that. I've been on various advisory committees throughout the institution, multiple committees.
Do you have any interesting experiences that you could relate on, maybe some of those committees you served on?
Interesting that can be documented, let me think. Well, yeah, I guess that what's interesting from the perspective of just being on committees is how little you think you're accomplishing on these committees, and at the end sometimes you realize that things have been accomplished. Frequently you just seem to be kneading to death, so to speak, but eventually things have changed, and sometimes it takes the length of time, over a span of time, to see the difference, as opposed to when you're in the middle of it, you think that nothing's getting done. But the school has changed quite dramatically over that time period. Specific thing of any single committee, I can't really say. One of the recent ones that I'm on is we're looking at how to define and what the future plans to make this a mature medical school is. And we're dealing with many issues with regards to that right now. It's somewhat interesting, a lot of lively debate.
I'd like to go ahead and maybe, well, mention too, I guess as acting chairman, that's probably a way to get you into becoming chairman, kind of a lure, it sounds like.
Maybe. I don't think it was a lure at the time. It was sort of like, well, the department was very small, and we were a fairly tight-knit group, but there weren't many of us, and we were all just trying to survive at the time, so I wasn't sure that was something I wanted to do long-term either, so it was sort of try it and see what happens.
And now you stuck with it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about some of the research you're involved in, and we'll come back to the plans here in a bit on the Health Science Center, but what are some of the research things that you're involved in? I noticed that in some of the things I've read on you that text caps, I believe it's called, is something that you have quite a bit of interest in. Could you go into a little of that and some other projects?
Yeah, well, text caps is a project that we started a couple of years ago here. It's an offshoot of what's called the AFCATS program. That's the Air Force Coronary Atherosclerosis Project, and ours is the Texas Coronary Atherosclerosis Project. Originally started at Wilford Hall in San Antonio with Air Force and retired military, and then it expanded to the private sector and went out of San Antonio and expanded to the Metroplex. And basically it's a study looking at cholesterol levels in what's called the mild to moderate elevated level, where most of the population presides. It's about 60 million people could theoretically be affected by this study, and we're looking at a drug to lower cholesterol called lovastatin, and it's double-blinded, placebo-controlled study looking at this drug versus a placebo and seeing if it will decrease the incidence of heart disease over a 5-year period. And we're sort of in the middle of it now. It's quite extensive. We interviewed approximately 52,000, or screened 52,000 participants to get the 2,868 participants at this site. So there's 6,605 people totally enrolled in the study.
So you're about halfway through, and
not quite. Wish
not
I was
quite.
halfway through. We're through completely through the first year. It's a 5-year study, and we're into the second year. So.
And you plan to? Do you have any thoughts about what will happen after the 5 years? Do you think there'll be some more studies, or?
Well, we're hoping to get a continued funding through other organizations. This is funded through a pharmaceutical company, Merck Sharp and Dohme. Hopefully the NIH or somebody else will continue to fund it just because of the large patient population that we're following. So we'll wait and see. Right now, we're mired in the data and the patients. So it's difficult to think 5 years down the road.
That must take a lot of your time, it sounds like.
It takes considerable time. The first year was very extensive as far as time. We fully examined well over 4,000 people, and we did that in a little over a 6-month time period. So those 6 months were very intense. Since then, it seems much less. It's only 1 full-time job instead of about 5.
So do you have time to do any other types of research that you have an interest in?
Well, we're doing some research in conjunction with the biochemistry department, several different areas regarding lipid metabolism. But Department of Medicine is doing research in varied areas, and we just got our first article accepted for publication in New England Journal of Medicine. Dr. Stephen Weiss and some of the pulmonary people put together an article on tuberculosis that they've been doing through the public health department. I'm real proud of that. We got our first NIH grant in geriatrics for a fellowship program, so there's a lot of other things going on in the department other than TexCap.
How have you seen the Department of Medicine change since you first took on that role?
It's changed a lot. I mean, just in mere size, it was 5 when I started, and there's 28 of us now, so that's changed considerably in size. We have full spectrum of personnel as far as all the subspecialties covered in medicine. That was one of my first objectives, was to get our medicine department balanced in regard to all the different fields and expertise. And it's changed in regards to, I think, how we're perceived in the community, how we're perceived nationally. We have several people that have national reputations in their field. And the research aspects, obviously, there was virtually no research back then, and now we have a considerable amount.
So it has changed in the local community then? Is that what you...
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we have numerous people on boards throughout the community in relationship to their fields of expertise. Frequently, when people are looking for the expert opinion in an area, they will come to us for that. And we've made a lot of, I think, real positive strides with the community as a whole, both in the medical community and the general community.
Are you yourself able to serve on some of those committees? What?
I've represented the school in a thing called Leadership Fort Worth.
What is it?
And that's a group of, I guess, community leaders that band together for a year, and then afterwards you join a forum, Fort Worth, where you still meet on large issues that deal with the community as a whole. And this is a very diverse group, multiple community leaders in not only medicine. In fact, most people aren't, but most major hospitals in town are affiliated with this, and law firms and businessmen and educators and industrialists and politicians. Everybody pretty much participates in that. So that's been one thing. I've been on the board of the American Heart Association locally, and things like that.
I noticed that the school issues a joint DO and PhD degree to kind of bring DO's more into the research part of it. How do you think that has a good impact? Is it something that needs to have more students? How do you feel about that particular situation?
Well, I think that it's always important to try and give a student who's interested the opportunity to pursue a career that might extend somewhat further than just the DO degree. So for that reason, I think it's very strong. We have our first DO PhD residents. We have 2 of them currently in our program. I think that that gives an added depth to their ability to do what we need to do as far as the clinical medicine is concerned, plus the added benefit of the research. So I think it's, you know, another strong point that the school's evolved into.
Why do you think a health science center is necessary for the growth and success of what was TCOM?
I think that the Health Science Center adds to the prestige of an institution. Whether that's real or perceived, I'm not as clear, but the perception is that you're more of a full academic center if you're a health science center, and if you have other schools affiliated with you, that does give you that the ability to utilize that many more personnel for each and every school, so that you can actually increase what you're doing without necessarily duplicating all the personnel to do that.
So diversity then.
So diversity is one thing. I think increase in depth is another. I think a different way of looking at it is it allows you to do more things that might fulfill some of the needs for the state and the community. And I know the school's progressing in that regard with some of the other public health schools that they're thinking about going after, and other allied schools of health. So I think that with where healthcare is going, health science centers are probably going to be at the forefront of that, and I'm glad to be affiliated with one.
How do you see this health science center different from the others that we have in Texas? And there are a number of them. What differences do you see?
Well, I think that the major difference is that this health science center is dedicated to what I believe is where the country is going, and that is an emphasis on health promotion, disease prevention, and primary care. The school's founded on that. I believe that the Health Science Center is continuing in that regard, and where the other schools are health science centers that might be more tertiary care oriented, ours is much more primary care oriented. And I believe that the country has a great need for this type of center, not only from the clinical aspect and the academic aspects, from the research aspects also. And as long as we stay on course with this, I think we can be quite unique in that regard and really make a significant difference to the healthcare environment in this country.
And it sounds like the environment is changing with the possibility of healthcare reform and all that. I know that's been mentioned in a lot of these interviews I've done. I guess that's something you're kind of concerned about then, watching those changes.
Well, I think everybody's concerned about healthcare. The system that we're currently under isn't working very well. I don't think too many people would argue that. There's a lot of people that don't have care, that need care. There's a lot of care that seems to be extraneous, too expensive. There has to be some constraints on this. I think the primary care concept is going to be probably reinvented, for lack of any better term, in the fact that the de-emphasis of primary care over the last almost quarter of a century has caused us to have many more specialists in this country than what's called primary care providers or gatekeepers. That concept has to change. There has to be more control over the system. I believe that the government is going to force that issue. They've been forcing that issue. Private insurance companies and business employers are going to reemphasize the fact that we need to keep constraints yet maintain quality. In order to do that, it's going to cause a reform, and we're under that now. So I think everybody's concerned about it. I think that we are poised to really do something about it that will give us a very good advantage compared to other institutions that have followed a different trail over the many years.
What challenges, you said you're on a committee for planning for the future, what challenges lie ahead, do you think, for the Health Science Center and you as well?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge that I can see is for us to stay on course and not be attracted to some higher technical, more high-priced ways of doing things. By keeping on course with primary care will allow us, I think, to investigate areas that need to be investigated that aren't as quote-unquote glamorous, that might not be as attractive in this day and time, but in the future might be the most attractive ways of practicing medicine in the future. Once the government, once insurance companies, once the public understands what has to be done, if we can show we have a better way of doing it, because we have been doing it for years, and can show that in some good research modes, whether it's outcomes, whether it's behavioral sciences, whether it's clinical drug trials, whether it's pure basic research in that area, I think we'll be that much further ahead. It's very difficult to try and do that, maintain the current curriculum that we have and our current research endeavors that we have, and stay on course, because the focus can get somewhat hazy. But if we can keep a clear and, I think, sharp focus, then we can achieve a lot of these things. I think that, for example, in the curriculum, we need to investigate some new ways of doing things. Again, I think curricular reform, just like healthcare reform in medical schools, is going under some kind of renaissance, where people are looking at better ways to teach medical students, better ways to render clinical care, better ways to include the whole family in that decision-making process that we call healthcare. Once we can do that, emphasize things such as preventive medicine, more progress has been made as far as saving lives, and I think improving our health has been in preventing disease than it ever has been in the curing of the disease once you get it. So if we can continue to emphasize that type of thing, I think we'll be far and away ahead of the game.
Are there any suggestions that you, off the top of your head, that you think that need to be changed in the curriculum?
Oh, well, yeah, there's so many. I don't even know where to begin. I think that we have to, number one, I think, reward educators in this institution and reward them in ways that are tangible. We have to look at the truly gifted educator in the same manner as we would look at a truly gifted researcher or a truly gifted clinician or whatever, truly gifted administrator, in that they are invaluable for the institution. We are an institution that's here to train students to become good physicians, hopefully primary care physicians, to take care of the people that need the care in this county and this state. So in order to do that, I think we need to have a curriculum that better emphasizes areas that may not be what's tested in, unfortunately, certification exams and boards. Because of that, we are caught in the dilemma. And the dilemma is, do we teach to a test or we teach to what we think they need? And I think that the future has to be, the answer has to be both, but hopefully they'll both come very close together. I think that the National Osteopathic Board of Medical Examiners, along with the USMLE, which is allopathic boards, will hopefully get closer to asking the questions that need to be asked with regards to these primary care issues, instead of emphasizing things that are, I think, a little old school now, and that's more tertiary care oriented and not oriented towards where the majority of the healthcare needs in this country exist.
So it kind of needs to be changes in across the board, it sounds
Yeah, it's
like.
major changes.
What do you see yourself doing in the next few years? Obviously continuing with text caps. What else do you see yourself doing?
Well, I have several goals for the department. One goal is for our department to continue to grow in the area of subspecialty growth. We have several areas in the department where there's only one-man divisions. Those areas, I believe, we need to grow somewhat stronger with a minimum of 2 just for backup. In the area of general medicine, we need expansion because of the primary care base that we provide for the rest of the department and the gatekeeper concept. Also the area of geriatrics, which I think is booming. We've just gotten funded to do a fellowship. We also have a fellowship approved in critical care medicine, so that's 2 other areas that I think we need growth and to continue to expand our general medicine residency. One of the things that I would like to try and do is evolve a residency program that would be a generalist type curriculum that might not only include our general medicine residents, but also family practice, possibly pediatrics, and something that might be more consistent with what I think the country's going to be looking for in the future. Somebody who can truly be the quote-unquote gatekeeper that can handle most of everything. When they need to refer, the referrals will always be appropriate and focused, and otherwise they can contain the cost within their own practices. I think those are the type of people that will be very marketable in the future. If we can produce those people, I think we'll be doing a great deal of positive work for the school and the country.
What areas did you say that you need to, would you like to bring more people in then? You have pretty much everything covered, but you want to bring in
Well, yeah. Right now we have single-man divisions in several of the subspecialty areas like neurology, infectious disease, endocrinology that we're trying to recruit. We have no oncologists full-time now, but we're trying to bring in several oncologists. And then in other areas where the needs are. You know, for the most part now, what we're trying to do is round out the department in areas where we feel there is a need to get the department balanced, so that hopefully what I'm trying to do is have it so that we have each division can be a balanced 3-tiered division, meaning that each division will have effective service, education, and research behind them. Even though each individual might not be able to have all 3 legs of that stool, each division will be, so that every person can be utilized for what their strength is. Some people are naturally better teachers, some people have more interest in research, some people have more service interests. They might be better clinically, they might have more community involvement, etc. But each division can have all 3 of those things. Then I think we can achieve the goals that we have outlined in our department anyway.
Do you see any of this changing the mission much with the school, or pretty much going right on track?
No, we tried to do stay as close as we could with the mission of the school. Our focus with regards, for example, research was developed almost a decade ago, and it was based in 3 primary areas. One was prevention, the other was geriatrics, and the third was health promotion. And in doing those types of things, what we tried to do is focus all our research efforts in areas, and they're pretty wide areas, but they're all basically areas that are consistent with the goals of the institution, so that when we recruit people, we try and recruit people who have an interest in those areas so that we can all grow together.
You mentioned earlier about what you like to see the department and the tiers and that kind of thing. How is that going to change your role as department chairman, or can you pretty much go into the function that you're under?
Well, my role has evolved over the years as we've gotten bigger. I've had to obviously delegate a lot more to other people in the department. Where that's changed is that I now look at much more, how can I put it, I'm much more larger a negotiator now, looking at contracts, looking at how to expand our horizon, so to speak, so that we can continue to grow. And that's every day a new challenge, whether it's dealing with setting up a new practice or increasing our practice at another institution, bringing in oncology into the group. We have dermatology starting this spring into our group. That's another new area that we have not been involved with in the past. And then looking at possibly expanding our horizons into John Peter Smith Hospital, which is the county hospital, in several different areas. We're already there in infectious disease. We're also talking about general medicine clinics. We're also talking about areas in gastroenterology right now. So there's a lot of irons in the fire.
So you see your role just to keep right on changing and more.
You have to be flexible. You have to.
We've covered a lot of ground here in a short time. I'm sure there's probably some things that I've missed with regards to your background and so forth, and research and all. What other things would you like to bring up about yourself or the Health Science Center that we haven't discussed or touched on?
Well, I just think that one of the things that attracted me to the institution when I first came was the potential. And the potential always seemed to be around the corner. I think we've rounded the corner, at least one of the corners, or several of the corners. For a time, I never thought we'd get there. But with some major changes in the community, in the nation, we have been, I think, very well accepted now. And we have, in a lot of areas, like I said before, not only in my department, but in a lot of areas, national reputation. And because of that, I think we can start to fulfill a lot of these expectations, a lot of the promises that I saw here back in '79. We still have a tremendous advantage in that we're the only medical school in a very large city. It's a city that seems to be growing and supportive of our institution, far greater than it ever had been in the past. I think the president and the dean have done a lot of work in that regard, with regards to community relations, with regards to affiliations with other institutions. We're now in affiliation agreements with institutions that never seemed possible years ago. All those types of things give a hope for the future that I think is much brighter here than a lot of other places and talking to other people around the country. I couldn't think of a better medical school in our profession to be affiliated with than this one as far as future potential and promise. And to me, that's one of the exciting things that keeps a lot of us here.
Do you have any other final remarks you'd like to make before?
I don't think so.
I do appreciate your time, Dr. Clearfield, in meeting with us. I know this is late in the day for you. I do appreciate you taking time out to help us on this project. I know that with your continuing efforts at the Health Science Center, sounds like in the community as well as in the academic circles and research, you have quite a bit to do and seem to do very well at it. We are very happy to have you here.
Nice to be here.
And thank you again for taking up your time. And so that will conclude this interview. We appreciate everything.
Great, thanks.